Okay, everybody should be able to see my screen here. And again, I'll check the chat box from time to time to see if anybody has any questions, or feel free to take yourself off mute. So my name is Blair Nicol, and that's my family and I from actually a few years ago. I was born and raised in business and franchise ownership, and been in franchising for about 25 plus years. I am one of the four principal owners of FranNet, and basically what FranNet is we help people purchase franchises. Our typical client is somebody who comes to us who's usually they've never owned a business before and considering business ownership or franchise ownership, and they feel that franchising might be the business methodology that best suits them, because franchising tends to cater towards people who have not been in business before, because there's kind of a recipe and a path to follow, a proven path to follow, and people like that, as well as the support of not only the franchisor and the franchisees. So we help match people up with the right franchises based on who they are, what they're trying to achieve, their goals, their aspirations, their personality styles, their finances, everything. And it's really neat to watch people go from a very early webinar like this, where they're just kind of learning, to literally, if all goes well, within a few months' time, owning your own business, which is pretty cool to see. So like I said, I've been doing that for about 25 years. I've helped thousands of people do this. Most people on this webinar are from the Pacific Northwest. I live in Oregon. I currently am sitting in Bend, Oregon right now, but primarily our clients are from the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, Idaho area. But we do have offices in just about every major city throughout the country. And so I've been here in the Pacific Northwest for many years. I originally got my start in franchising back in back in the mid 80s. My father and my brother and I, we were with a company called Mailboxes, Etc., which is now known as the UPS store. And we were the master franchisees down in Southern California for that particular franchise. And we sold it along with a number of the other master franchisees in the company. We all sold to UPS. And as you now all see, now it's called the UPS store. So that's kind of my background in franchising. And like I said, been doing it for many, many years. So like I said, we'll be about 45 minutes to an hour. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. We're going to talk about COVID-19, because COVID-19, we're all kind of tired of it, but it affects people and how they go into business. And what we're seeing is the trends in franchising are changing just about every couple of months right now, which we've never seen before. And the types of clients that we're seeing has changed drastically over the past few months. And so we'll talk about COVID-19 and how that has been affecting people. Then we'll talk about, why do people go into business? Why do people not go into business? The different options for going into business and the pros and cons of each option, the risks, the myths. We're going to spend a majority of our time on how do you find the best business option for you, and all the tools and techniques that are out there to help you get that done. And then, like I said, you'll want to have your phone and camera ready when that QR code comes up the end to be able to get all the handouts that we would normally give in person. So this I kind of went over with already. The other thing that I didn't mention, though, is we don't sell franchises. We just help educate the general public on franchising and help match people up with the right franchises. What's really neat about our services is that we are free to you. We are paid by the franchisors and the companies out there. So there is no need to pay FranNet anything. So like I said, think of us as kind of a headhunter for the franchisors, and it's kind of a matchmaker between the general public and the franchising community out there. So this isn't our first rodeo. And what I mean by that is we've all been experiencing COVID-19 over the past, call it, year and a half now. I've helped clients go through the dot-com bust, the September 11th, the Great Recession. Now we're dealing with COVID-19. And what we see people focusing on is more recession-resistant, low-cost, low-overhead, service-based types of businesses. Now, there's another trend out there that's happening right now as well, and that's called semi-absentee business ownership or franchise ownership, and I'll go into that here in a little bit. The other thing that we're seeing is the types of clients. Our typical client is usually somebody who is in career transition, kind of tired of corporate America, and have always wanted to own their own business, and now they're considering business and franchise ownership. What we're also seeing right now is there's a tremendous amount of people that are being asked to come back to work, whether that be in August or September or October, it doesn't matter. But we're starting to see a lot of people say, hey, I'm currently employed. My corporation's asking me to come back, but I don't want to. You know, I want to stay home. I kind of like the freedom and flexibility that I've had. And hey, now might be the right time to own a business or start a business, you know, as the economy is rebounding. And so, like I said, we're seeing all kinds of different clients compared to what we've seen in the past. So how are our clients using this time? Well, prior to this slide was actually made back in March of last year. And so we had plenty of clients who just kind of hit the brakes back then. Then we had clients who kind of tapped the brakes and just kind of proceeded with caution once they had a little bit more clarity of COVID-19. And now that we're kind of coming out of COVID-19, they're starting to see that clarity and seeing kind of businesses start to ramp up. And so a lot of our clients last year, as well as the beginning of this year, were full steam ahead. They kind of used that dip in the economy to kind of capture the businesses that they want and now riding the wave up. And it's still happening. I would say the only difference that we're seeing right now is that if the businesses require more of an entry level employee, that is something that you need to watch. And that'll be something that people will be watching until probably the middle of September when that federal stimulus ends. But that's kind of a new change that has happened compared to last year. Okay, so there's also all kinds of different financing out there, and I'll teach you guys a little bit about the different types of financing, so that you're a little bit dangerous and pretty well educated on it. But we are not the experts in financing. These three companies, Benetrends, Guidant Financial, and FranFund, they're the experts. They are the finance companies that most of our clients go to. And so feel free to go to their websites. We have no affiliation with them whatsoever, other than they're the three big financing companies within the industry. But later on, I will share with you kind of the different ways that clients are financing their businesses so that you know the different methodologies. Also know that we have a client bill of rights for our clients. So nobody's holding a gun to your head saying you have to do this. You have to go into business ownership. We want you to know that you have lots of freedom. You can speed up this process. You can slow down this process. Like I said, we are not paid by you. We're paid by the franchisors out there. And so it's kind of a no pressure obligation. And really, we are mainly about education and helping people learn about business and franchise ownership and the different types of businesses out there, which is pretty cool. So one of the questions that we normally ask people in kind of a live group setting is, what brought you here today? What brought you to this webinar? Look, it's lunch hour. I'm sure some people are hungry, or you might be at work right now, who knows, but something drew you to this webinar as to why you wanted to listen to it, okay? And so ask yourself what's going on, because whatever that is, if you go into business, it better solve this reason of why you're really wanting to do this. So we always like to ask people, why are you considering going into business ownership? And when we start to ask that question, these are the answers that start to come up, okay? And these are actually in ranking order of what we hear from our clients. So whether it's success or more control, financial security, time flexibility, or layoffs, there's different reasons of why people consider business ownership. But yet most people will choose to work for someone else. And the question is why? Why do people do that? Well, what we're really talking about here today is risk. Look, there is risk in going into business and franchise ownership. If there wasn't risk, a hell of a lot more people would be doing it, right? But there is risk. So they might feel that a job is safer than a business, or they might wait till the economy is better. Do they have the money, knowledge, or skill sets to start and run a business? But by far and away, risk is what stops people from going into business. And what I got to show you today is how to close this window of risk as much as possible so you can feel safe and secure about making the decision of going into business. Because if you don't feel safe, you're not going to do it. And you shouldn't do it. And so you got to feel good about going into business. So when you look at a job, okay, let me grab this marker here. When you look at a job, as time goes on, the risk of the job goes up, okay? Not all jobs last forever. And there's a lot of people, like I said a couple minutes ago, that are getting burnt out on corporate America and just want to use this time to do their own thing. So generally what we've seen is jobs last about somewhere around 3 years or so, and then either the company's going to make a change or you make a change. And so as just the risk of the job goes up as time goes on. Business ownership is just the opposite. The greatest risk in business ownership is right here in the beginning. But as time goes on, the risk of the business goes down as the systems, the support, the staff, all that starts to settle. The business becomes more and more secure. Now, there's usually some type of line right along here on the time horizon of owning a business where suddenly the business is profitable, it's doing all the things that you would hope that it would do, but you got to know when that time is. And it's not only time, it's also money and effort that it takes to put into the business to get it past that time horizon. And what's really cool about franchising is that you're able to do a lot of unbiased research to find out exactly what happens with a specific franchise. And I'll show you how to do that here in a few minutes so that you know how much time, how much money, what is the risk level, and are you comfortable with it? And also, hey, can the business produce the type of income, amount of time, flexibility, whatever it is that you want? Can it produce what it is that you want? And you're able to find out all of that information prior to signing any agreements or writing any checks or anything like that, which is pretty cool. That's very hard to do in most other businesses, but you can do it in franchising, and I'll show you how to do it. So the rules are changing, and job security is more of a thing of the past. Is income security something of the future, or is job security something of the future? And most people say no. They're more concerned about the economy. How's it going to impact the business? And so what our clients are doing is that they're looking at businesses that tend to be more recession resistant than others, or with specific market characteristics. And so what you're looking at here are the types of businesses that we're seeing a lot of our clients go into. Now, some of them may be interesting to you. You might look at, say, these right here, hair care and fitness. Well, what's happening is, if you look at fitness, there's been a lot of pent up demand of people wanting to have better fitness, as we've all been kind of sitting in our homes for the past year and a half. And as we're getting out more people are going back to the gyms. They're going more back to boutique fitness, going back to getting their hair done, more essential services, if you will. A lot of people are still spending a lot of money on their homes or senior care, all essential services. Staffing is a huge thing. Companies are willing to pay big money now to get the proper employees. So staffing companies are going crazy right now, as well as consulting and business coaching. So all kinds of things. So these tend to be where clients are focusing right now, which, like I said, some of them might be a little bit surprising to you. So there are 3 different ways of going into business. You can start a business from scratch, you can purchase a franchise, or you can buy an existing business. So let's talk about the pros and cons of each methodology. So starting a business from scratch, it is the way every single business on this planet started. So whether it's FranNet or Wells Fargo or Microsoft or United Airlines, doesn't matter. Somebody had an idea and created a business out of it. So you have total control. You get to make all the decisions. There can be a tremendous amount of upside, and you can build the business from a passion. The disadvantages from starting a business from scratch is that you're starting a business from scratch. You have to create everything from what your logo is to what's the accounting software, to how do you acquire customers, what are your systems, what's the type of staff that you're looking for. So therefore, usually a very long ramp up time and a very high failure rate of starting a business from scratch. In fact, a little over 80% of all businesses that start from scratch don't make it, which is unfortunate. So my hat is always off to people that start a business from scratch and are successful, because it's one of the hardest things to do. Now, one of the easiest ways to get into business ownership is buying an existing business. Buying an existing business is super easy because it is a tangible asset. You're able to look at that business as it operates right now. You're able to look at its cash flow, its goodwill, its actual financial results, its customers, employees, everything. The disadvantages are there's not a lot of good existing businesses for sale right now. In fact, if you wanted to go look, most businesses that are listed on the internet for sale are listed at a website called bizbuysell.com. So it's bizbuysell.com. You can break it down by geography, you can break it down by industry, you can break it down by investment level, but that's where most businesses will sell. Only about 1/3 of all businesses that sell are listed on that website, because the general rule of thumb is 2/3 of all businesses sell to a friend, family, or an acquaintance. In other words, there's an old rule in business ownership that good businesses are bought, not sold. Okay. So in other words, it's somebody who knows the business, somebody who's been following the business, whether it's a customer or family member or friend, or maybe the franchisor and franchising or other franchisees. They know the business and therefore they acquire it and want to buy it from you. So how do you know the true cash flow? What should the business actually be sold for? Are you going to get proper training and support? Are they, why is the seller really selling? Are the employees going to stick around? So there's a number of disadvantages to buying an existing business as well. But like I said, it is one of the safest ways to go into business. And whenever we see a good business that is for sale, whether it be one of our past clients or one of the franchisors approaches us and says, hey, there's a good existing location for sale, we let everybody in our database know about it and the specifics of it. And if you see one of those emails, know that's kind of a rarity because it doesn't happen that often. The other option is buying a franchise. So most of our clients will end up purchasing a franchise, I would say 95% or more, because it usually is their first business. And franchising is a way of receiving a recipe or a cookbook on how to run the business and get the support from the franchisor. And suddenly you get the name recognition. You're able to get out of the gates a lot faster. There's a tremendous amount of training and support. It's proven. So therefore a lot lower failure rate. There's all kinds of financing options, which we'll go over. There's disclosure. What I mean by, I'll go into kind of what I mean by disclosure here in another minute or two. There's also the franchise family. And what I mean by that is not only do you receive support from the franchisor, you'll receive support from your fellow franchisees that are in the same business as you, because they all want to help each other. It's kind of like a family. The disadvantages to franchising is not every industry is franchisable. And there is a structured operating system. You can't just do what you want with the franchise. There's actually an agreement between the franchisor and the franchisees and how to run and operate the business. There might be territory restrictions. Generally, you can only sell their products, and there's also royalty payments. So what I mean by royalty payments is that in franchising, you're given the name, trademarks, business system support on running the business in exchange for an initial franchise fee and some type of ongoing royalty. A typical franchise fee that we see in franchising is usually around $30,000 to $60,000. Okay. A typical royalty is usually around 5 to 6, 5 to 7% of gross sales. And then sometimes you'll see an additional 1 to 2% on top of that that'll go towards some type of advertising or marketing fund. So that's where franchisors make their money, is off those royalties. They typically don't make money off the franchise fees. Those are usually spent before a franchisee even comes on board, but they do make money off the royalties. So the franchisor has every want, every desire to try to help you do better, because the better you do, the better they do. So in franchising is regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. And the Federal Trade Commission mandates, and I don't have one near me right now, but they mandate that a franchisor provide to somebody who's researching that franchise, so meaning you, what's called a franchise disclosure document, or FDD. And it is generally, they're about an inch thick. There's all kinds of information in them. And look, they're not the funnest reading material in the world, but they do tell you a lot of information. They will tell you what your rights are, what franchisor's rights are. Do you get a protected territory, and what does that look like? You'll see this next one that is highlighted, and that is a list of all the current franchisees and past franchisees broken down by state and their actual contact information. And I'll tell you why that's super important here in a minute. They'll give you any type of financial representations where you will learn right up front, generally, how well do the franchisees do financially, because that's probably one of the bigger questions you're going to have. What's the management policy? How do you renew it? How long is this agreement? How do you terminate it? How do you sell it? All of that is within the disclosure document. Now, let me go back to the list of the current and past franchisees. Reason why that is so important, remember in the beginning of this workshop, I said, look, you're going to be able to do a lot of unbiased research when you research these franchises. And the way that you do that is by contacting and talking to the current franchisees within that particular franchise system. Okay. And what this will do is, a lot of people ask, hey, are you really able to talk to these franchisees, and are they really going to be open with you? And I think all of our clients find that they're pleasantly surprised at how much information they can get from their current franchisees, because they're not there to sell you the particular franchise, but they'll tell you what it's actually like to run it and operate it. Everything from how much time it takes, how much money it takes, how much money can you make, would they do it again? How would they do it differently? How supportive is the franchisor? All the information that you would want to know. And that's typically not true of researching an independent business. So only franchising allows extensive research on utilizing past proven results, which is pretty cool. So people ask me all the time, hey, what's some of the trends? So there's trends of people looking at more recession resistant types of businesses right now. There's also a huge trend, and this trend's been happening for a number of years. So I would say 5, 6 years, and that's what we call semi-absentee ownership. There's a number of franchises out there that are designed for you not to have to be there all the time. And when I say time or semi-absentee, I'm usually talking about 5 to 20 hours per week. So a lot of our clients look at these semi-absentee franchises because they either want to ease their way out of corporate America, or maybe they're already out of corporate America and want to own their own business, but they don't want to do it full time. Or maybe they're kind of easing into the retirement years but still want something to do, still want some income and kind of want a side gig. And so that's what semi-absentee is. So it's a very popular method for going into franchise ownership. So we usually see clients who want to supplement their income or their financial portfolio, create a multi-generation, multi-unit type of operation. And like I said, a lot of times they're full-time employed, but not always. But this will cater towards full-time employees as well. They're generally slightly higher investments. And the reason is a lot of these semi-absentee franchises are location-based. So as soon as a franchise or a business is location-based, generally the overall investment is going to be about $200,000 or more. Okay. You will also have a manager or a general manager running the day-to-day operations. And so there's the salary of the manager as well. And usually advertising dollars are used to drive customers into that location. Now, there's a number of businesses that are also home-based or semi-absentee businesses that are home or office-based, so lower investments. But a lot of them do have a physical location to them. And those are some of the segments that you'll see them in, but there's many other segments as well. But I would say over half of our clients purchase semi-absentee ownership franchises. So you get to keep your job. Owner's work is after hours, morning, evening, maybe over lunch. You can monitor the business remotely. I mean, it's pretty cool. You can go onto your iPad these days and look at the current operational results of your business, because everything's online these days. And you can do it from anywhere in the world. And a lot of times our clients will use this as a hedge against economic conditions or economic changes. So let me check the chat room here real quick. See if there's any questions. Nope, don't see any now. Again, feel free to use the chat room or take yourself off of mute and ask questions. So let's go into the myths. So what are some of the myths associated with franchising? When I usually do these webinars live, I will usually ask the group to start naming franchises to me. And the common denominator of what I will hear is that they're either location-based, but primarily food associated with food. Because when people think of franchising, they think of Taco Bell, McDonald's, and Subway, and Burger King, and that's what people think franchising is. Know that there's lots and lots of choices. There are over 4,000 different types of franchises out there, okay? Know that there's business services, retail, automotive, commercial, personal, home-based, office-based, you name it. There's all kinds of different franchises out there. In fact, rarely do we see one of our clients purchase something food related, because generally they're very long hours and very high investment levels. And the margins are usually quite a bit lower. Now, there's some very good food franchises out there, don't get me wrong, but that's primarily what our clients are not looking for. Franchise succeed because of the quality of the product. No, what franchisors are very good at is not necessarily the product. What they are very good at is their system, okay? You need to be a believer in the system of the franchises that you're looking at, because that's what you are purchasing as the business owner. That is what is going to make this business succeed or fail. And so you need to really research the marketing, the sales, the accounting, the operations, the management, the leadership of the particular franchise, and be a believer in it and really feel that it's a very good system. Because again, that's what you are writing a check for. Your customers need to be a believer in the product because that's what they are buying. Okay. Successful franchise emerged in new industry with no new competitors. So I'm asked all the time, whether it's at cocktail parties or get-togethers, whatever the case may be, once people know that I'm in franchising, they'll go, Blair, what's the latest, greatest franchise? Always tell me about the latest, greatest franchise because I'd like to research it. Well, franchise emerged from what we call consolidation. They're very good, franchisors are very good at looking at an industry that's dominated by independents, mom and pop types of businesses who have been very successful, tweaking it, changing it, and then bringing their management, purchasing power behind it and creating consolidation. Okay. So the competition is good. It is healthy. Okay. It shows there's a market for the product or the surface or for the service, but the franchisors usually come into that segment and do it a heck of a lot better. Okay. That's just what they're very good at doing. One of the things that you need to know is that I would say our average client right now, I would say is spending total costs in their business about around $200,000. So that means that most of our clients are purchasing location-based businesses, but obviously not all of them. Some of our clients don't want to spend that much. They want to spend $50,000 to $100,000. But what you're looking at here is the percentage of franchise that fall within that total investment range. Now, the odd thing to hear is know that there's no correlation between the cost of the franchise and the potential return. All right, so kind of let that sink in because people aren't used to hearing that. You can spend $500,000 on a franchise. There's no guarantee that you're going to make money. You can spend $50,000 on a franchise and make just as much money as the $500,000 franchise. So there's just no correlation. That's a good thing for you. It's one of the ways you can kind of reduce risk is to spend less. But just know that there's no correlation. So a lot of people are just kind of, I don't know if I believe that, but just trust me, it holds true. And once you start researching these franchises and different investment levels of franchises, you'll find that it does hold true. Now, what you do need to have to go into franchising and business ownership is obviously some money. It does require an investment on your part. So generally what you'll see is that about 25 to 30% of the total cost of the business will be your money. And then you can finance the remaining, call it 70, 75%. Now, let me share with you kind of where the money is coming from or how our clients are financing these businesses. Well, let me kind of give you kind of in ranking order, the quickest, cheapest, easiest source of financing to the longest, hardest to get, most expensive type of financing. Okay. So it won't really follow these bullet points on this slide, but I'll kind of go in that order. So obviously the cheapest source of financing is you got cash, you got personal savings, you can just write a check for the business and be done. After that, right now it's HELOC, home equity line of credit. So you can generally get a home equity line of credit if you got good equity in your home, and a lot of people do because of the real estate market right now. So they can pull some of that equity and spend it on a business and create another income stream. And so generally you can get a home equity line of credit done in about, I don't know, say about 3 weeks or so. The interest rates are near historical lows. So it's a very cheap, easy source of financing, and you're able to do with that money as you please. After that would be what we call a portfolio loan or a portfolio line of credit. So that would be getting a line of credit, not on your house, but on your personal investment. So if you got stocks, mutual funds, things like that, you can call up your personal financial advisor and say, I'd like to take a line of credit out against my stocks and mutual funds, not sell them, just take a line of credit out against them. Generally, you can get that done in about 3 weeks or so. Every financial advisor can do it, and it's your money. It's just a line of credit against them. Just like a line of credit for your house. The only reason why that would be number 3 choice is generally the interest level on that is just a little bit higher compared to a home equity line of credit. Okay. The next option would be what's called a ROBS or rollover for business startup. What that means is that the IRS allows you to use retirement funds. So now we're talking about a qualified financial account of yours. You're allowed to use retirement funds to fund a business or to start a business without early withdrawal fees and without penalties. So it's called the RECESSION Act of 1973. Most people are not familiar with it. In fact, a lot of CPAs are not familiar with it. But it is, I would say about half of our clients use the ROBS route to finance their business. So if you're like, hey, I got a good amount of retirement funds, I don't want to keep it in the stock market, I want to take some of it out and invest it in myself and invest it in a business, you can do that. Like I said, without early withdrawal fees and without penalties. And again, that list of financing companies I gave you earlier, they can do all these sources of financing. The last one, which is kind of the hardest route to get financing, that's just a general small business loan. These banks have been tied up with PPP loans. That's where they've been focusing. They've just been super busy with that. So they haven't been putting a lot of effort into small business loans. Now, we still have a good number of clients that do get small business loans, but generally they do require collateral. Generally, we're seeing it's taking about 4 to 6 months to get a small business loan done. And it's kind of a pain. They really are. But some of our clients don't have a choice. And so that's what they do apply for. And I just always tell them, hey, if they're getting done, you just it's going to be a roller coaster ride. You just got to be able to be willing to ride that roller coaster to get a small business loan. And we're happy to pre-qualify you. We're happy to have those other companies pre-qualify to kind of see what's going to be the best source of financing for you. But that is generally like I said, the sources of financing that our clients are using in ranking order, okay? Now, do I have to spend a lot of money to make a lot of money? No, like I said earlier, there's no correlation between the cost of the businesses and how much money they make. So like I said, just trust me on that one because it does hold true. Is industry experience required? No. What the franchisors want you to do is they want you to follow their system. Typically, they want you to have no previous experience within their industry. So you're going to want to focus on, what are you good at? What skill sets do you bring to the table? Is it more management? Is it sales? Is it communication? And look at businesses that capitalize on that. And the franchisor is going to train you on how to use their system. Okay, so that's what they're very good at. So how do you find the right fit for you? So we're going to kind of switch gears here and try to figure out, hey, how do you find the business that's right for you? Well, you need to ask yourself, are you willing to follow a franchisor system? What's affordable to you? What type of risk level are you willing to accept? What would make you kind of drive you out of bed to really have fun in your business? What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve 5, 10, 20 years from now? Because the whole reason for going into business is to be able to achieve these goals. Otherwise, don't do it. What's important to you? Are you trying to have more challenge, prestige, build equity for retirement? Is it more time flexibility for family and interests? And maybe you were used to a corporate job and now you've had this time flexibility being at home and working from home and you want to be able to continue to do that. Is it more financial security? So again, what is it for you that's driving you to do this? Because the business needs to solve that reason. What skill sets are you very good at? Like I said a minute ago, okay? What can you bring to the table that you're very good at doing? Okay, so I'm going to take a quick pause here. I'm going to check the chat room real quick, see if there's any questions, and I don't see any. Again, feel free to enter some in there, but we must be doing pretty good. So now we're going to talk about what are some of the tools out there to help you get this done if this is something that you seriously want to consider and pursue. Well, you're going to want to start getting your phone ready because that QR code is coming up here in a couple minutes. But what we have is that we have an assessment tool that a lot of our clients use, and it's called a entrepreneurial profile. And it'll help look at your skill sets, your background, your personality style, what you think you'd initially like to see in a business, what you're good at doing. And it's going to look at all kinds of things. And it's going to produce about a 14-page report for both you and us. Okay. It doesn't tell you the specific companies that you should be researching, but it'll tell you the types of businesses that you should be researching. It'll also tell you, hey, is there any red flags that it sees as to maybe why you shouldn't go into business ownership? So to be able to get this assessment tool, as well as the handouts that we normally hand out, there's going to be, the next slide is going to be the QR code. So get your phone ready to take a picture of this QR code. And again, it'll give you the link to be able to take this assessment if you want, as well as the handout. So there's the QR code. I'll let that stay up there for a minute so you can snap a photo of it and be able to get to it. And then I'll come back to it at the end if for some reason you're having trouble with it, or put in the chat box if you're having trouble with it. But most people find it pretty easy to use. Okay, just another few seconds here. 3, 2, 1. All right, hopefully you guys are all able to get it. Once you do that assessment, then we're going to want to sit down and build a business model together. And that business model is things like, how many employees, what type of employees do you think you'd like to have? What type of customers do you think you'd like to have? Do you want to have something more business to business or something work with the general public? Do you want something home-based, office-based, retail-based? Do you think there's going to be a full-time business, a semi-absentee type of business? We'll build a budget together. Do you want something that's kind of new, kind of cutting edge, or do you want something that's kind of tried and proven? Do you want to sell a service or do you want to sell a product? And you may not know the answer to a lot of these questions, and we'll help you with the answers to a lot of these questions. So like I said, we've been doing this for many, many, many years. We'll help you build your business model, because once you know your business model and your assessment, now you know what it is that you're trying to find, okay? And the whole trick of this is to be able to find the business that best matches who you are. And every single one of us on this webinar are different people with different backgrounds, different skill sets, what have you. So we'd all look at probably different businesses as well. So this is a sample of what an actual business model looks like, okay? So as you can tell, there's quite a bit that goes into it, and you'll get a copy of that once we help you complete it. There's a handful of books that we suggest you read. And some of these books we give to each of our clients. So we give more than just French fries and street smart franchising to all of our clients that we work with, okay? The Street Smart Franchising book is probably one of the best books that we have seen in franchising. It follows our processes very well. Our clients are always very happy that they read it because it'll come up with kind of the questions that you'll want to ask, not only of yourself, but of the franchisor and franchisees. We're going to provide you with a bunch of questions to ask the franchisors and the franchisees, and we're going to guide you through this whole process. And remember, this process takes about, on average for people, about 2 to 3 months to properly research franchises, to be able to find the one that's right for you. And even if you find it, doesn't mean that you have to do it. But you know, obviously most of our clients do that get to that stage. And then we're also going to help you with professional advisors. So like I said, most people on this webinar are from the Pacific Northwest. So we'll help connect you with franchise attorneys here in the Pacific Northwest, with CPAs here in the Pacific Northwest that know business and franchise ownership well, and they will help you dot your I's, cross your T's, look at those disclosure documents, look at those franchise agreements for you, and kind of get their non-approval that it's a good document to sign if and when you become ready and you find the business that you really want. Okay, I'm gonna go back to that QR code here for just a second. At least I'm gonna try to, in case people didn't get it. And then I'll get you my personal contact information. All right, there is my personal contact information. There's my cell phone up there. A lot of people like to connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to do so. You can connect with some of our past clients, chat with them if you want to research this a little bit more. Feel free to go to our Facebook pages, websites, whatever it is that you want. There's also the direct link to the personal franchise assessment tool that I talked about earlier as well. But if you use that QR code, it should get you directly to it. So I'll check the chat box one more time, see if there's any other questions. But that's about it for the day. And I don't see any more questions. So I hope this was worth your time. We made it in about 40 some odd minutes. So I kept within my commitment because I know a lot of people are at lunch right now. So I want to thank you for attending. I hope every one of you will get a copy of this presentation, this actual recording that we're doing right now. And then we'll just do a kind of a courtesy follow-up with you to see if you have any further questions or if there was a topic that we didn't go over that you want us to go over. And you know, if you want to keep moving forward, obviously we're happy to help. That's what we do. Looks like there is a question coming in. Good, Mark. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mark. Hopefully it was interesting for you too. So again, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks for attending, and enjoy the rest of the week. Bye-bye.